Continue reading Krishna book by C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, chapter 34. Vidyadhar liberated and the demon Sankachud killed. Once upon a time, the cowhead men of Vrindavan, headed by Nanda Maharaj, desired to go to Ambikavan to observe the Shivaratri ceremony. The Ras Leela was performed during the autumn, and after that, the next big ceremony is Holi, or the Dolayatra ceremony. Between the Dolayatra ceremony and the Ras Leela ceremony, there is an important ceremony called Shivaratri, which is especially observed by the Saivatis, or devotees of Lord Shiva. Sometimes the Vaishnavas also observe this ceremony because they accept Lord Shiva as the foremost Vaishnava. But the function of Shivaratri is not observed very regularly by the Bhaktas or devotees of Krishna. Under the circumstances, Srimad Bhagavatam states that Nanda Maharaj and the other cowhead men once upon a time desired. This means that they were not regularly observing the Shivaratri function, but that once upon a time they wanted to go to Ambikavan out of curiosity. Ambikavan is somewhere in Gujarat province, and it is said to be situated on the river Saraswati, yet we do not find any Saraswati river in Gujarat province, although there is a river named Sabarmati in India. All the big places of pilgrimage are situated on nice rivers like the Ganges, Yamuna, Saraswati, Narmada, Godavari and Kaveri. Ambikavan was situated on the bank of the Saraswati, and Nanda Maharaj and all the other cowhead men went there. They very devotedly began to worship the deity of Lord Shiva and Ambika. It is the general practice that wherever there is a temple of Lord Shiva, there must be another temple of Ambika or Durga, because Ambika is the wife of Lord Shiva and is the most exalted of chaste women. She doesn't live outside the association of her husband. After reaching Ambikavan, the cowhead men of Vrindavan first bathe themselves in the river Saraswati. If one goes to any place of pilgrimage, his first duty is to take a bath and sometimes to shave his head. That is the first business. After taking a bath, they worship the deities and then distributed charity in the holy places. According to Vedic system, charity is given to the Brahmanas. It is stated in the Vedic Shastras that only the Brahmanas and the Sannyasis can accept charity. The cowhead men from Vrindavan gave the Brahmanas cows decorated with golden ornaments and beautiful garlands. The Brahmanas are given charity because they are not engaged in any business profession. They are supposed to be engaged in Brahminical occupations and described in the Bhagavad Gita, namely they must be very learned and must perform austerity and penances. Not only must they themselves be learned, but they must also teach others. Brahmanas are not meant to be Brahmanas alone. They should create other Brahmanas also. If a man is found who agrees to become a Brahmana's disciple, he is also given the chance to become a Brahmana. The Brahmana is always engaged in the worship of Lord Vishnu. Therefore, the Brahmanas are eligible to accept all kinds of charity. But if the Brahmanas receive excess charity, they are to distribute it for the service of Vishnu. In the Vedic scriptures, therefore, one is recommended to give charity to the Brahmanas, and by so doing, one pleases Lord Vishnu and all the demigods. The pilgrims take a bath, worship the deity and give charity. They are also recommended to fast one day. They should go to a place of pilgrimage and stay there for at least 3 days. The first day is spent fasting. At night, they can drink a little water because water does not break the fast. The cowhead men headed by Nanda Maharaj spent that night on the bank of the Saraswati. They fasted all day and drank a little water at night. But while they were taking rest, a great serpent from the nearby forest appeared before them and hungrily began to swallow up Nanda Maharaj. Nanda cried out helplessly, "My dear son Krishna, please come and save me from this danger. This serpent is swallowing me." When Nanda Maharaj cried for help, all the cowherd men got up and saw what was happening. They immediately took up burning logs and began to beat the snake to kill it. But in spite of being beaten with the burning logs, the serpent was not about to give up swallowing Nanda Maharaj. At that time, Krishna appeared on the scene and touched the serpent with his lotus feet. Immediately upon being touched by the lotus feet of Krishna, the serpent shed its reptilian body and appeared as a very beautiful demigod named Vidyadhar. His bodily features were so beautiful that he appeared to be worshipable. There was a lustre and effulgence emanating from his body, and he was garlanded with a gold necklace. He offered obeisances to Lord Krishna and stood before him with great humility. Krishna then asked the demigod, "You appear to be a very nice demigod and to be favored by the goddess of fortune. How is it that you perform such abominable activities that you got the body of a serpent?" The demigod then began to narrate the story of his previous life. "My dear Lord," he said, "in my previous life I was named Vidyadhar and was known all over the world for my beauty. Because I was a celebrated personality, I used to travel all over in my airplane. While traveling, I saw a great sage named Angira. He was very ugly. And because I was very proud of my beauty, I laughed at him. Due to this sinful act, I was condemned by the great sage to assume the form of a serpent." One should note here that before being favored by Krishna, a person is always under the modes of material nature. However elevated he may be, materially elevated demigod, and he was very beautiful. He also had a great material position and was able to travel all over by airplane, yet he was condemned to become a serpent in his next life. Any materially elevated person can be condemned to an abominable species of life if he is not careful. It is a misconception that after reaching the human body one is never degraded. Vidyadhar himself stated that even though he was a demigod, he was condemned to become a serpent. But because he was touched by the lotus feet of Krishna, he immediately came to Krishna consciousness. He admitted, however, that in his previous life he was actually sinful. A Krishna conscious person knows that he is always the servant of Krishna. He is most insignificant, and whatever good he does is by the grace of Krishna and the spiritual master. The demigod Vidyadhar continued to speak to Sri Krishna. "Because I was very proud of the exquisite beauty of my body," he said, "I derided the ugly features of the great sage Angira. He cursed me for my sin, and I became a snake. Now I consider that this curse by the sage was not at all a curse. It was a great benediction for me. He had not cursed me. I would not have assumed the body of a serpent. It would not have been kicked by a lotus feet and thus freed from all material contamination. In material existence, 4 things are very valuable: to be born in a decent family, to be very rich, to be very learned, and to be very beautiful. These are considered to be material assets. Unfortunately, without Krishna consciousness, these material assets sometimes become sources of sin and degradation. Despite Vidyadhara's being a demigod and having a beautiful body, he was condemned to the body of a snake due to pride. Therefore, from this incident, we can learn that those who are too proud of their material assets or who are inimical toward others are degraded to the bodies of snakes. A snake is considered to be the most cruel and envious living entity, but those who are human beings and are envious of others are considered to even more vicious than snakes. The snake can be charmed or controlled by mantras and herbs, but a person who is envious cannot be controlled by anyone. My dear Lord, Vidyadhar continued, "Now, since I think I have become freed from all kinds of sinful activities, I am asking your permission to return to my abode, the heavenly planets. This request indicates that persons who are attached to fruitive activities desiring promotion to the comforts of higher planetary systems cannot achieve their ultimate goal of life without the sanction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita that the less intelligent want to achieve material benefits and therefore worship different kinds of demigods, but that they actually get the benedictions from the demigods through the permission of the Lord Vishnu or Krishna. Demigods have no power to bestow material profit. Even if one is attached to material benedictions, he should worship Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and ask him. Krishna is completely able to give even material benedictions. There is a difference, however, between asking material benedictions from the demigods and asking them from Krishna. Dhruva Maharaj worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead for a material benediction, but when he actually achieved the favor of the Supreme Lord and saw him, he was so satisfied that he refused to accept any material benedictions. The intelligent person does not worship the demigods or ask favors from them. He directly becomes Krishna conscious, and if he has any desire for material benefit, he asks Krishna, not the demigods. Vidyadhar, awaiting Krishna's permission to return to the heavenly planets, said, "Now, because I have been touched by your lotus feet, I am relieved of all kinds of material pangs. You are the most powerful of all mystics. You are the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are the master of all devotees. You are the proprietor of all planetary systems. And therefore, I am asking your permission. You may accept me as fully surrendered unto you. I know very well that persons who are constantly engaged in chanting your holy name attain a release from all sinful reactions, and certainly persons who are fortunate enough to be personally touched by your lotus feet are freed. Therefore, I am sure that I am now relieved of the curse of the Brahmana simply by seeing you and being touched by your lotus feet." In this way, Vidyadhar got permission from Lord Krishna to return to his home in the higher planetary systems. After receiving this permission, he circumambulated the Lord and offered his respectful obeisances unto him, and then he returned to his heavenly planet. Thus, Nanda Maharaj was relieved of the imminent danger of being devoured by the snake. The cowherd men who had come to execute the ritualistic function of worshipping Lord Shiva and Ambika finished their business and prepared to return to Vrindavan. While returning, they recalled the wonderful activities of Krishna. By relating the incident of Vidyadhara's deliverance, they became more attached to Krishna. They had come to worship Lord Shiva and Ambika, but the result was that they became more and more attached to Krishna. Similarly, the gopis worshipped the goddess Katyayani to become more and more attached to Krishna. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that persons who are attached to worshipping demigods like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Indra and Chandra for some personal benefit are less intelligent and have forgotten the real purpose of life. But the cowherd men, inhabitants of Vrindavan, were no ordinary men. Whatever they did for Krishna. If one worships demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma to become more attached to Krishna, that is approved. But if one goes to the demigods for some personal benefit, that is condemned. After this incident, on a very pleasant night, Krishna and his elder brother Balaram, who are inconceivably powerful, went into the forest of Vrindavan. They were accompanied by the damsels of Brajabhumi, and they began to enjoy their company. The young damsels of Vraja were very nicely dressed and anointed with pulp and sandalwood and decorated with flowers. The moon was shining in the sky, surrounded by glittering stars. The breeze was blowing, bearing the aroma of malika flowers, and the bumblebees were made after the aroma. Taking advantage of the pleasing atmosphere, Krishna and Balaram began to sing very melodiously. The damsels became so absorbed in their rhythmic song that they almost forgot themselves. Their hair loosened, their clothes slackened, their garlands began to fall to the ground. At that time, while Krishna and Balaram and the damsels were so much absorbed, almost in madness, a demoniac associate of Kuvera, the treasure of the heavenly planets, appeared on the scene. The demon's name was Sankachuda, because on his head there was a valuable jewel resembling a conch shell, just as the two sons of Kuvera had been puffed up over their wealth and opulence and did not care for Nanda's Narad Muni's presence. This Sankachuda was also puffed up over material opulence. He thought that Krishna and Balaram were two ordinary cowhead boys enjoying the company of many beautiful girls. Generally, in the material world, a person with riches thinks that all beautiful women should be enjoyed by him. Sankachuda also thought that since he belonged to the rich community of Kubera, he, not Krishna and Balaram, should enjoy the company of so many beautiful girls. He therefore decided to take charge of them. He appeared before Krishna, Balaram and the damsels of Braja and began to lead the girls away to the north. He commanded them as if he were their proprietor and husband. Despite the presence of Krishna and Balaram being forcibly taken away by Sankachuda, the damsels of Braja called out the names of Krishna and Balaram for protection. The two brothers immediately began to follow them, taking up big logs of sal wood in their hands. "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid," they called to the gopis. "We are coming at once to chastise this demon." Very quickly they reached Sankachuda, thinking the brothers too powerful. Sankachuda left the company of the gopis and ran in fear for his life, but Krishna would not let him go. He entrusted the gopis to the care of Balaram and followed Sankachuda wherever he fled. Krishna wanted to take the valuable jewel resembling a conch shell from the head of the demon. After following him a very short distance, Krishna caught him, struck his head with his fist and killed him. He then took the valuable jewel and returned. In the presence of all the damsels of Raja, he presented the valuable jewel to his elder brother Balaram. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 34th chapter of Krishna Vidyadhar liberated and the demon Sankachuda killed. Hare Krishna.